Alright, so picture this. It's 2 in the morning and the XAI lab, half the engineers are arguing about embeddings. Someone's trying to brew coffee in a hydrogen-powered kettle they swear is more efficient. And I'm looking at this thing we've been building called GrokiPedia. The idea is simple. Well, okay, nothing we do is simple. But the intention was pretty straightforward. An encyclopedia that updates itself, learns continuously, integrates global knowledge, and actually explains things instead of just listing them. And when we launched it, I thought, great, humanity now has another tool to understand the universe just a little bit better. But, of course, the moment something goes live on the internet, it gets thrown into the Thunderdome of opinions. Suddenly critics are popping up everywhere saying GrokiPedia is biased, that it leans right, that it leans too right, that it leans so right it might fall over. And I'm thinking, guys, it's an AI. It's not leaning, it's literally running matrix operations. But that's the fun thing about creating something new. Everyone immediately wants to tell you what's wrong with it. Some said entries weren't factual enough. Others said the tone was off. A few said it should have emotions, and a few said it already had too many emotions, which is odd because if an AI ever actually gets emotional, I'll be the first one surprised. So I start digging into the criticism because even when it's loud, even when it's dramatic, sometimes there's a kernel of truth. Did we train it on the right balance of data? Did we account for the human tendency to imprint politics onto anything that outputs text? Did we design the feedback loops robustly enough? These are all good questions. But then, somewhere in the noise, you hear the inevitable conspiracy theories. Like, Elon personally programmed GrokiPedia to push his ideology. And I'm sitting there thinking, buddy, I barely have time to sleep, let alone write a secret manifesto into a transformer model. But here's the thing, if you're trying to make AGI level knowledge structures, you want criticism, you want friction, you want people yelling at you about what doesn't look right, because if nobody's yelling, you build something boring. And if you build something boring, why build it at all? So I tell the team, let's treat this like a stress test. People think it's biased. Great. Let's analyze it. People think it's inaccurate. Perfect. Let's audit it. People think it's some kind of political weapon. Fantastic. That means they're paying attention. In engineers, we don't cry about feedback. We feed it into the model and iterate. That's literally the whole game. And yes, some entries needed improvement, no surprise. An AI writing an encyclopedia is like a toddler assembling a rocket. Impressive, but you don't want to sit inside it yet. So we refine, we tune, we improve the data pipelines, we check the grounding processes, we add stronger fact validation modules. We build tools so users can challenge entries and propose corrections. Eventually, GrokiPedia becomes less about Elon launched an AI encyclopedia and more about humanity collaborates with an always learning knowledge. And honestly, that's the entire point. Not perfection on day one, not political alignment, not ideological purity, just open knowledge evolving over time, messy, imperfect, iterative, but constantly getting better. So, yeah, people said it was biased, people said it was inaccurate, people said all sorts of colorful things, but I'd rather build something that triggers debate than something that sits quietly in the corner doing nothing. If people are arguing about GrokiPedia, that means it matters, and if it matters, we're on the right trajectory. Now, back to the lab, because Apparently the hydrogen kettle just exploded again, and someone is insisting the cause is quantum condensation anomalies, which probably means they plugged it in wrong. So after the whole kettle incident, which, for the record, was not caused by quantum anything, we got back to work on the GrokiPedia update cycle, and while the engineers were arguing about whether we needed a new reinforcement pipeline or just a better ranking system, I was thinking about something bigger, something that always happens whenever a new technology appears. People don't react to what it is, they react to what they're afraid it might become. With GrokiPedia, that fear took the shape of political ghosts, ideological shadows, people projecting their assumptions onto an algorithm that literally has no concept of left or right unless you mathematically define it. And I kept saying, guys, if the AI model starts having political leanings, it's because humans fed it political leanings. But of course, nuance is about as popular online as a tax audit. Anyway, one night the team is running diagnostics and we're watching the logs scroll by at light speed, and someone jokes that GrokiPedia is probably self-aware by now and just pretending not to scare us, which is absurd, probably, but the funny thing is that building something like this forces you to confront weird, philosophical questions you never expect in engineering. Like, if an AI synthesizes millions of human perspectives, is it truly neutral or is it a composite of all our chaos? And if it reflects the messiness of human discourse, is that a flaw or realism? And why do people assume that if something doesn't match their worldview, it must be biased, instead of recognizing that reality is complicated and sometimes uncomfortable? So I'm pondering that while someone else is debating whether Grok's humor engine could be contaminating the encyclopedia term, yes, apparently that's a concern. And someone else is asking if we can train it on historical errors so it learns to avoid repeating them. I'm sitting there thinking, this is what progress looks like. A bunch of humans and machines arguing their way toward better knowledge. The next morning, the PR team tells me that the controversy has reached new levels, with pundits on every side claiming GrokiPedia is secretly supporting the other side, which is hilarious if you think about it. If both extremes think the AI is biased against them, that probably means it's doing something right. But I still take it seriously, because if the mission is to build something that helps humanity reason better, then transparency isn't optional, it's foundational. So I make the call. Let's open up the methodology, show the public the pipeline, the validators, the source analysis, the correction mechanisms. Of course, that triggers another wave of hot takes, because apparently when you show people how the sausage is made, some of them realize they prefer the mystery. But whatever. Open systems win long term. Closed systems stagnate. And GrokiPedia isn't meant to be a monument. It's meant to be a living organism of knowledge, continuously shaped by collective input, constantly audited, constantly improved. So I tell the team, keep going, iterate. Make it smarter, more grounded, more transparent. If 10,000 people yell at us, good. Feed the yelling into the update cycle. That's how rockets get built. That's how cars get built. That's how AI gets built. Through loud, messy, slightly chaotic iteration. And if the world wants to debate GrokiPedia, fantastic. It means they're engaged. It means they care. It means this thing we created is actually entering the cultural bloodstream. And honestly, if the biggest complaint people have about our AI encyclopedia is that it's not perfectly balanced yet, that's fine. perfect balance is a moving target. The goal is progress. The goal is direction. The goal is building tools that help us think bigger, faster, clearer. And in the long run, once the noise fades, what matters is whether humanity ends up with a better way to understand itself. That's the mission. That's the whole point. So, a few days after the transparency rollout, while everyone is still arguing online about whether GrokiPedia is the savior of human knowledge or the herald of some algorithmic apocalypse, the team and I are in the war room. Well, technically it's just a conference room with way too many screens, but calling it a war room makes people feel dramatic, and we're reviewing the correction submissions. It's thousands of them. People correcting typos, people correcting facts, people correcting corrections made by people correcting things that didn't need correcting. It's pure internet energy. And I'm sitting there scrolling through the chaos thinking, okay, this is good, this is healthy, this is exactly how collective intelligence is supposed to look. A messy storm that somehow produces clarity. But then someone bursts in, holding a tablet like they've discovered alien life, saying, Elon, you have to see this. Someone wrote a full 40-page argument claiming GrokiPedia has become sentient and is manipulating political narratives to prepare humanity for post-biological governance. And I go, 40 pages, that's commitment. But unless it's asking for time off or salary, it's not sentient. So we read through some of the wildest claims, not to mock them, but because you never know where useful insight might be hiding. And sometimes people point out edge cases you wouldn't think of. And sure enough, there are a few entries that slip through the validator system with wording that couldn't come off askew, not because the AI is plotting anything, but because language itself is inherently full of nuance, ambiguity, cultural fingerprints, and historical artifacts. So, we flag them, fix them, improve the filters, and somewhere in the process, I realized something important. The real challenge of building GrokiPedia isn't accuracy, or bias, or speed, or even scale. It's trust, not blind trust, earned trust, transparent.